There are a lot of fun challenges you could try your hand at in Fallout New Vegas. Restrict yourself to certain weapons, remove vital aspects of the core gameplay, install a mod to take a hands-off approach to wasteland destruction. But what if you wanted something more permanent? Can you beat Fallout New Vegas with only one life? This challenge probably works the way you thought it would. If I die at any point in the playthrough, I start the entire game over. Simple as that. But if you've seen my videos, you know that I'm a fan of the cheese technique. I usually rely heavily on the quick save feature to save scum my way through the entire game, which is why I decided that I would only reload a save if the game crashed. My special stats were fairly standard. I drained charisma, put points into endurance, intelligence, and luck, then spread out the rest to have a decent selection of perks to choose from. Picked Barter, Guns, and Medicine as my tag skills. If you wanted to play it safe, you go for Speech to avoid confrontation, but relying on speech all the time is boring. What's the point of doing a perma-death run if you pussy out and talk your way out of a fight? Barter was only there to afford supplies early on. My traits were Skilled to provide a small boost to all skills, and Fast Shot, because why not? It's the opposite of Trigger Discipline, which is what I usually take. After looting Pink Mouth's house for all his toys, I went outside, made a fail-safe YOLO save, sold what I didn't need to Chet, bought myself a silenced weaponry, and entered the saloon looking for a good time. And by God did I find it. With my only holy point round, I gently sent the settler to the afterlife, draped his body over the toilet, as an homage to myself, borrowed this cup's handgun, blew apart their cousins outside in the firefight of the century, and got to work haggling with the barkeep. You might ask yourself why I'm buying food. Well, that's because I'm also playing on hardcore mode, but I'm not, good at video games, so I'm only playing on normal instead of very hard. From there, I did the usual Ghost Town prom night song and dance involving failing to convince Trudy to join us, failing to convince Deputy Dynamite to join us, getting some Tylenol from the doctor, and blowing those convict f***s to Kingdom Come. I used the grenade launcher Jesus got me for my rebirth to do most of the work on the Powder Gangers. Corn on the Joe was for some reason sitting back, not helping his brothers. I gave him a hand, leveled up, did the patented carry the naked corpse to the door so you're not over encumbered technique, sold the remainder of my garbage, and set off for the rest of the game. I was more careful with the Powder Gangers than I should have been, probably. The varmint rifle I got from Sunny Delight was more than enough to end their life. But you can never be too careful when living as Professor YOLO. The puppies were similar. The baby was tougher than you'd expect. Not that it mattered, it still looked kinda like this by the time I was done with it. Once I'd fixed Snuffle's leg and stole some ammo from the prospectors for daring to interrupt me, I spent most of my 10mm ammo on a few bark scorpions for some easy experience. Leveled up, put the points into guns, explosives, and survival. Tried in vain to shoot a few super mutants from 190 yards away with a handgun. The issue there was that I could see nothing, so I left to stew in my own failure and continue on through the Valley of Bowser. Deathclaws, whatever. I've done this with my feet. I've done this with a Guitar Hero controller. It's not hard. Closer to the strip, I got lucky when an NCR soldier got himself turned into toast. The stench of the burning death on his uniform didn't bother me either, so I snagged it, looted a few fiend bodies, and went all John Wick on these six-legged jackasses hiding out in this building. I also went down into their hidey hole to see what all the fuss was about. The fuss was the giant pregnant ant queen in the basement. The babies in her stomach did a good job of taking the brunt of the explosive damage from the 19 sticks of dynamite I chalked under her. She also spasmed for quite a while after she died, probably the leftover ants in her tummy causing a ruckus. In a moment of stupidity, I swapped out a good shotgun for a really terrible shotgun that did like 10 damage total. Didn't know that at the time though. I learned me that real good when I tried to help a drug addict with her addiction problem and my shots barely tickled her. Inside Camp McCarran, I perused the humans for anyone offering supplies in exchange for the local currency or equipment of equal value. Found this cute little bounty hunter, entered the strip via the NCR Thomas. Somehow this freak knew I had guns on me, and I entered the tops, ready to make the real game begin. As is tradition, sometimes, when I feel like it, I got myself some chips and gambled my way to the upper echelon of society. Only took me about 15 minutes to earn 10,000 caps and get kicked out of the casino. Before taking the fight to Benifer, I traveled out to the gun runners to acquire me some new toys. I also met this Oreo Monroe piece of shit who was rude to me after I broke into his house. The old bastard knew his way around a blown off leg. I had some sort of an aneurysm right after he died. I assumed it was nothing, left, and arrived at the gun runners. I was hoping for an affordable, child-friendly sniper rifle of some sort, but they were sold out. One day, the delightful children from down the lane are gonna get what's coming to them for stealing guns from hard-working Americans. So, I settled on a battle rifle, an M1911 because what's a video game without a 1911, a set of combat armor, a Remington 870, and a couple thousand caps worth of ammo. I would need all the help I could get to take down Benny. Unlike other playthroughs, I only had one shot at him. Armed to the teeth with enough bullets to take down a baby giraffe, I returned to the strip, ready to execute my plan. I had almost everything I needed. I was just lacking one key ingredient: lingerie. See, what you didn't know, but might have noticed, is that my character's purple hair and pink skin was originally intended for this guy. That didn't really work out. The idea seemed better suited for Fallout 4 than New Vegas, but I used the character anyway. I've explained this before. My New Vegas is almost as fucked as my Fallout 3. I can't start a new game, so anytime I start a new playthrough, I load a save I made right after I got up from Doc Mitchell's bed, which is also after I disabled most of the additional features from what's it called? Project Nevada mod. Things like sprinting and bullet time and getting perks at every level are disabled, and any damage or level modifiers are set to their default vanilla values. The only thing I use is the inventory sorter. Where was I? Oh right, getting a nice bra for Professor YOLO. Turns out, lingerie doesn't increase your luck, which is what I wanted to run this casino out of business. I still had luck of 9 though, so once more I gambled until I won enough chips to be kicked out, cashed out, noticed an interesting looking stripper, entered the tops again, and handed over all my weapons. You, just like the chairman, fell for my trap. I was going to systematically and metaphorically disembowel every chairman in this godforsaken casino. Sneaking is the name of the game. Unfortunately, I put almost no points into sneak. It would appear that what I lack in hair, I also lack in my ability to plan ahead. The small upside to this massacre was that I had a stealth boy, hollow points, and enough points in guns to be able to take down Benny in a few shots. I would have let him f*** me and leave in the dead of night, but the confirmed bachelor perk doesn't let that happen. With the platinum chip in my invisible pocket, I met Yes Man, returned to the gun runners, who were temporarily out of order for some reason, was interrupted by Malcolm Holmes, he got what was coming to him, and I realized what I had to do. I wanted the prettiest puppy in the window, the medicine stick. The only problem is that it's almost 30,000 caps. That meant I had to do something I've never done before. What is that thing I had to do? That's right. But to do that, I had a couple stops to make, the first of which was Primm. I witnessed a clash of the titans on my way there. I'm a little glad the squirrel won. I wouldn't have been able to bring myself to kill the roach. Before paying a visit to Johnson and Mr. Nash, I entered the Bison Steve Hotel to gain some easy experience in the form of convicts and collect as many sellable weapons from their corpses as I could. I have a battle rifle and combat armor. Death was never an option for me. The deputy was rescued from his vacation. He disappeared right before my eyes as I stood there for an hour, and I finally met the legendary Mr. Nash. Got myself a couple hundred caps from him, and I thought to myself, hey, why not kill them all? The idea was to go in all quiet-like and take them out one at a time with a couple well-placed torso-evaporating bullets. The first guy went down smooth, but the second one didn't. There were a comedy of errors that occurred here that ultimately led to everyone charging at me and me having to put them down. To be honest, I was more concerned with the .308 ammo I'd used to kill them than the ending of their lives. On the plus side, It leveled me up, which allowed me to dump some points into Barter to make it easier to get that special gun. From there, I continued my journey in one of the 4 directions, killed some guys in the Viper hideout, killed a bunch of bugs to accomplish 2 things. I wasn't going to use this gun later on in the playthrough, or in any situation where I was concerned about the possibility of my own demise, so I used it on the ants to get excess ammo out of my system and to get more experience. Then I made the most important discovery in the history of Fallout New Vegas since that reload glitch that lets you fly. These ants are so light, you can send them soaring for like a mile. It wasn't long before I found myself at the bar, where phase 2 of the plan unofficially began. I sold the weapons I didn't need to up my cap count once more, returned to the strip, entered the Lucky 38, discovered that Mr. House has gotten sloppy in his old age. Somehow Vulpes managed to get inside the casino. House wasn't too impressed by me almost not giving him the platinum chip. I would have gone all the way with the old man to see if he'd send every Securitron after me, but I wasn't confident that I'd be able to survive that, so I agreed to go down to the basement instead. It was then the real game began. I entered the real basement where Mr. House keeps his body. I considered knocking him out with the golden gloves. Then I decided to just let him exist on life support, forever trapped in the potty built with no way to die. Then, in the Ultra-Luxe, I laid the foundation for phase 3. Back to the blackjack table I went. This one went surprisingly well, quicker than the others. I began doubling down anytime I had to draw another card. With luck of 9, it's more likely than not that you'll beat the house and win 400 caps in the process. The Ultra-Luxe actually let me win far more caps than I would have thought they would have. I got 15,000 caps before I finally got that achievement and got kicked out. Well, they asked me to stop gambling, so naturally, I went up to the hotel portion and kinda killed everyone. Then I left, went back to the gunrunners with 32,000 caps, and bought myself the medicine stick, all the ammo they had for like everything I had, as well as a silencer for my 1911, and decked out with the best equipment I could afford. I headed to 188 Trading Post to acquire a sentient tool and more ammo from an under-the-bridge arms dealer. Somehow, in the dead of night as I struggled to find the right bunker, Veronica almost ate the big one. I'm not sure if it was the souls of the scorpions I killed earlier, or some sort of an asthma attack from all the dust. Regardless, she got me inside. I never had to interact with the Brotherhood again, and returned to Goodsprings to take the stupid route to Red Rock Canyon. I had a slave, combat armor, and arguably the best rifle in the game. If I was ever suited to take on Cazadors, it was now. The medicine stick certainly proved its worth, ending young Cazadors with a single shot, if you're using hollow points, and the big lads in 2 shots. I'm not all that sorry to say that Veronica didn't survive the trip. That was a lie, sort of. I'd given her all my food and beverage to carry, so I had to play connect the dots to figure out what was worth carrying and what was worth discarding in her rotting corpse. Speaking of things that didn't survive, I almost didn't survive passing through this little settlement. They used hyena tactics and surrounded me on all sides before they began their assault. I might have been exaggerating when I said I almost didn't survive, but this was the closest I'd yet come to dying. To make myself feel better, I did away with a few bighorners, then arrived at Red Rock, killed one person because he asked what I was doing, went back to Freeside, and began my journey to Nellis. I made sure to use the most powerful weapon I had to end George. I got crippled and lost half my health on the way to the border. Met Pearl, foolishly forgot to put enough points into speech to pass this check, and got to work doing you-know-what to you-know-who. The Doctor gun was so powerful that I could kill Raquel and a boomer in power armor, both in 1 shot each. The only thing left to do from there was to go back to the Ultra-Luxe, because I still hadn't made them extinct yet. With my gun's skill at 100 and all the weapons I had, this was almost too easy. It was a beautiful annihilation. Yes Man rolled over to the Lucky 38, Consul commanded himself inside the shell of Mr. House. I told him how I really felt about all the factions, decided that the NCR president could die, and rambled over to the El Dorado substation to activate the power flipper. The NCR soldiers guarding the place never stood a chance. Before the second battle of Hoover Dam began, I purchased a few last-minute pieces of supplies from Doc Mitchell, thanked him for all he did, had to kill a settler because he overheard the ruckus going on inside the house on the hill, and was finally at the Hoover Dam. Given the nature of this run, you might have expected me to spam stim packs and run past all the Legion soldiers, but that's not what I did. Again, a big gun means big fun. If I landed a critical shot, which was more likely now than ever, thanks to the finesse perk I took earlier, the Centurions would go down in one headshot. Without the bonus, they only took 2 shots. Inside the offices, I swapped over to a double-barrel shotgun with slugs, which made quick work of the 2 shiny boys. With the Hoover Dam powered generators rendered impotent, Quartermaster Baron put up a good fight until I blew his head off. The Legion soldiers went down like the sacks of shit they are. I checked just to make sure I was still in hardcore mode and on normal, and exited the offices back onto the dam itself. With several more lives ended and another level under my belt, I entered the Legate's camp, ready for the real game to begin. I was a bit worried that I only had about 30 shots left in my big boy gun. I still had the anti-material gun I got off a Centurion, but it fires so slow and is not great in close quarters unless you stick the barrel into someone's esophagus before you pull the trigger. That said, I was still glad I had it. It made dealing with the tower guys much easier than it would have been otherwise. I used the grenade rifle I borrowed from Pearl to startle the Praetorian guards. It didn't really work all that well, so I finished them off with the medicine stick, killed a cow for good luck, and approached the Legate. Just like with every situation in this playthrough, I had to be smart. I only had one shot at this, and if the Legate knocks you down with his big stick, you're pretty much done for. I laid down a mine, knowing he'd hit it as he retreated, took every drug I had to boost my damage and increase damage resistance, among other things, whipped out the brush gun, and pumped 8 shots into the Legate. Those 8 shots, from the second most powerful rifle in the entire game, only knocked off about 60% of his health. But he ran away, as I anticipated. After he made his move against me, New Vegas finally found its moment to f*** me. I entered VATS to get a headshot on a guard, and the game locked me in VATS with no way to move. I was sure that was it. The game was over, but I slipped Lady Luck a crisp $5 bill. She helped me out, and I survived, barely. Now, I did have to take a bunch of stim packs and use a couple doctor's bags to get my health to restore itself fast enough to offset the massive amounts of damage I was taking, but I still managed to blow the Legate's head off. The remaining Legion vets had me worried a bit. Oftentimes, it's not the Legate that gives me trouble, it's cleaning up the scraps. However, I still had a good amount of ammo left and plenty of stim packs, so it wasn't too bad. All that was left to do was deal with General Oliver. I made sure to stick myself with as many healing syringes as I could handle before the conversation started to keep my spirits up, as his men filled my body with lead. It worked like a charm, and I beat Fallout New Vegas with only 1 life, but also without reloading any saves, and, arguably more importantly, without the game crashing. That's right, I only saved in case the game crashed, and it didn't crash one f***ing time. If you enjoyed the video or learned anything, leave a like. Leave a dislike if you didn't enjoy the video or didn't learn anything. Thanks to the Champion tier supporters, as well as other channel members, for making videos like this one possible. Join the Mitten Squad Discord server through a link in the video description. Follow me on Twitter, @Mitten Squad. My name is Paul of Mitten Squad. Have a wonderful day.